From the high 10. It's Everyday Shenanigans. Happy Friday to everybody. Chat and viewing audience. This information is pertaining to Eliza Fletcher, who went missing 3 weeks ago and found behind an abandoned house in South Memphis, Tennessee. The cause of death has been released by the medical examiner's office, and I'm going to bring you that said commentary. WREG News Channel 3 is the source. Thank you for joining me.
Nearly 3 weeks after Eliza Fletcher's body was found lifeless behind this South Memphis home, new gut-wrenching details are emerging from her autopsy report. According to the medical examiner's office, Fletcher's official cause of death is gunshot wound and blunt force injury of the head. We spoke with Jerry Francisco, a former medical examiner in Shelby County, about the findings.
With the onset of the gunshot wound, death would have occurred rather quickly.
The 34-year-old mother was allegedly kidnapped and killed in early September after being abducted during a morning run near the University of Memphis. Her unrecognizable body was found days later. The report says there were bruises on her right thigh and leg. Fletcher also had extensive facial injuries.
Described as a fracture to the maxilla, which is the upper part of the face.
Documents show she was shot in the back of the head. A shell casing was recovered from the scene where her body was found. The report also notes single slightly wavy black hair placed in evidence as hair from stomach.
Wow. WREG News 3 is the source. Thank you for joining me. We're going to chop up what was said in that commentary pertaining to Eliza Fletcher. Thank you for joining me. One second. I never thought that he killed her by a gun. I just did not think that was the manner of death. But as you have heard, it is. Oh, Lord. What a day. Kidnapped runner Eliza Fletcher died of a gunshot wound to the head, autopsy says. NBC News is the source. A Tennessee kindergarten teacher who police said was kidnapped during a pre-dawn run and then killed earlier this month died from a gunshot wound to the head. An autopsy report released Thursday showed Eliza Fletcher, 34, had a gunshot wound in the back of the head and also had blunt force injuries to her right leg and jaw fractures, according to the autopsy completed by the West Tennessee Regional Forensic Center in Memphis. There are two semicircular defects to the skull, consistent with a single gunshot to the head, with the bullet traveling in a posterior to anterior, back to front, and right to left direction, report said. Fletcher was running on the University of Memphis campus when she was forced into a vehicle after a struggle about 4 a.m. September 2nd. Police said her body was found September 5th behind a vacant home after a massive police search lasting more than 3 days. Cleotha Henderson, who also has gone by the name Cleotha Abston, has been charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping in the case. He has not entered a plea, and his lawyer has declined requests for comment. U.S. Marshals arrested Henderson a day after the abduction after police detected his DNA on a pair of sandals found near where Fletcher was last seen, according to an arrest affidavit. After her body was found, another police affidavit said officers noticed vehicle tracks next to the duplex's driveway and they smelled an odor of decay. Purple running shorts, whose appearance was consistent with those Fletcher was wearing, were found in a discarded trash bag nearby, the affidavit said. The autopsy report said a shell casing was recovered from the area where Fletcher was found. The killing of Fletcher, a mother of two, shocked the Memphis community and has led to a flood of support for her and her family. A church held a vigil to pray for her and her family, and runners in Memphis and several other U.S. cities held an early morning running event in her honor a week after she was kidnapped. After he was charged with killing Fletcher, Henderson was charged with raping a woman in September 2021, about a year before Fletcher was killed. Henderson was not arrested on rape charges before Fletcher's killing because evidence from a sexual assault kit test had not been available at the time, authorities have said. Henderson also previously kidnapped a prominent Memphis attorney in 2000 when he was 16 years old. He spent 20 years in prison for that crime. Okay. That's the set information as far as I can see. Let me make sure everything's my device is acting horrible. Seems like every time I talk about true crime, the weirdest things happen to my devices. As earlier, the iPad turned on by itself and started talking. Nancy Grace was talking while I was answering a phone call, and I thought, this is the weirdest thing. Very strange. Right now it's acting up. I don't know what's the problem. Very weird. I keep telling myself, the more you talk about the macabre, strange things tend to happen. And now it won't even open up. That's usually a sign I shouldn't be talking about this stuff all the time. But anyway, blunt force trauma to the face, head, I'm assuming. Why did he shoot her? I'm sure many people are going to wonder that. I had more content I wanted to bring, but this device is acting strange. I don't know what's going on. This is very weird. Okay. Why shoot her? I'm curious to that. Why he shot her. So that means he had access to a gun. Where did he get the gun from? Is it his gun? Was it his gun? Somebody else's gun? Bruising on her thigh, leg. So what did he do? Kick her? See, I was always wondering what he was doing with her in the car after he abducted her, the 4 minutes where he left the scene with the victim and went and parked the car at an adjacent parking lot on the campus. So what was he doing? Hello, everybody. I'm just now seeing you all's comments. They're popping up. I don't know what's going on with my electronics today. They're acting really strange. I don't know if it's an omen in this place. Yeah, I told it needs to get out of here because some strange things have been going on with my devices tonight. Very creepy, eerie stuff. And it's only when I'm looking at the macabre is when things are starting. I am starting to get a little leery because I'm telling you, the phone was ringing and the iPad just started talking on its own. I'm my right hand to God. It just started talking. And I thought, wait a minute, why is this iPad just turning itself on talking? Nancy Grace was talking, but I was in another room and I thought, what the hell is that? And it was strange because I was looking up, I believe I was looking at some things pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer or something else, and now it's doing the same thing. I don't know if that's just something telling me, stop talking about this stuff. Anywho, I'm trying to put in my head, why'd he shoot her? Because I was asking myself, did he shoot her in the car? Because it was said in the beginning that there was blood evident inside of the vehicle, because he's on camera cleaning that vehicle at the brother's apartment. But now we get information that there was a round found. So this is wicked to me. So what? He was beating her. So that's the blood that's in the car. What? Why was he so angry? Because, you know, it's vicious to stab a person. It's vicious to shoot a person multiple times. But to beat a person, man, that's personal. It's personal. It's always been said it's personal when you stab a person, especially more than one time. So before we even got this information, one would, wonder, okay, how did he kill her if there was blood in the car? Because you got to remember, he was cleaning that passenger side of the car for an hour, for at least an hour. Now we get information, bullet, whatever, found near the scene where the house is. One would wonder, hey, he shot her. And autopsy says, yes, he did. Bruising to the leg. So basically, Cleotha, you beat this woman. You're beating her like you know her. It's even wrong if you knew her. Well, what is I'm trying to understand the violence, because we've got to go back to the Black woman who he raped. I didn't hear that he beat her. I didn't hear that he shot her. So why did you beat the white woman? Why did you pull a gun on the white woman and shoot her in the head, the back of the head? And I'm trying to understand what the hell you were doing with her for 4 minutes in that SUV, because it's not very much you can do in 4 minutes. I can think of some things and I don't want to repeat it. So I'm going to throw this out here. Was he beating her then to subdue her? Because I asked myself too, did he approach her from the back or the front when he jumped out of the SUV? Because they said he was briskly running. Like, I got to get her quick. I got to get her quick. Came out of his shoes, slides, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You're going out hunting a victim and you're wearing slides. You can't make this stuff up. Wearing slides. I believe she put up a fight. She looks like she was, strong enough to put up a fight. She was a runner. But the thing that bothers me is the obvious. When he pushed her into the vehicle, he had to go around to the other side of the truck to get in. Why didn't she get out? Why didn't she jump back out? So what we have to ask ourselves is the obvious once again. Did he punch her while putting her into the vehicle? Because if he's just shoving her into the vehicle, common sense would be, okay, he's got to run around this truck and get his butt in this truck. Hell no, I'm jumping out of here. I'm getting out of here. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody in the chat. So why didn't she jump out? And I told myself, she was just scared? Because I understand, it is easy to judge a situation when you're not there. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? But you're going to ask those questions because you're going to use deduction from what's been told to you. So there's nobody else in there to subdue her. Why didn't she jump out? Why didn't she jump out? Did he punch her while shoving her into the car? Because I want to know why she didn't jump out. Because she had seconds to jump out before he was able to get into the vehicle and lock the doors. I wonder, do they have footage of that? They have to have footage because they said they saw him lying in wait. That's another thing that's creepy, the lying in wait. We'll chop all that up because I'm going to bring you information to why there is violence with women and rape, kidnapping, and murder. Lord have mercy. It's very, very strange. Very strange information. All right, everybody, let me jump out of here and get to my next commentary. We're going to go back to YouTube. We're going to go to some older content. This is content from a few weeks ago where this guy is going to explain how ridiculous and just insane this case is. Because it is. You know, what was done to her, you can't wrap your head around just somebody doing this, lying in wait, you know, wearing slides, cameras visible, although it was late in the morning, but he didn't care. He didn't care. He did not care about her. He made that painfully obvious. He did not care for Mrs. Fletcher. This is Fox News. This is pertaining to a criminal defense attorney, Mark Eglarch, who reacts to the murder of Memphis mom, Eliza Fletcher, and the charges against Cleotha Abston. Let's hear what he had to say because I wanted you all to hear his commentary. I thought it was very interesting.
Thanks for joining us today. Incredibly tragic ending to this story, although the investigation is ongoing. What do these authorities do next as far as determining a motive, why this man decided to kill this amazing mother of two and teacher to many?
Yeah, my heart goes out to the family. It is just the worst, most abhorrent allegations involved. They don't have to establish a motive is the answer to the question. The good news is you really don't always know, and so the law then says you don't ever have to have a motive. A guy who allegedly did this has been to prison for 20 years. He may just like to do stuff like this. He may be that tormented. He may be that disturbed that that's his thing. But prosecutors don't ever have to prove motive, fortunately.
You know, you've got to think about, I know the conversation with the ladies on Outnumbered, top of the last hour, we're talking about this is a situation so many moms are in where they've got young kids, they take them to school, they try to get in their workouts, and in her case, her long run early in the morning. But any sort of habit or sort of trail that you do on a continual basis, I would say it's 5 days a week, someone can see you doing that. In this case, he could have been lurking for some time and known that she did these runs early in the morning. We at least know he was lurking for the 20-25 minutes before she entered sort of his web, if you will. The surveillance video did show that he was wandering in that area for quite some time before she ran through.
That's correct. And if you believe what the police are saying, and there's no reason to doubt them, this guy is a predator. And so predators get out there and they look for people who may be vulnerable. And it would not surprise me if he studied her movement and then acted on it.
He had a rap sheet. We know he went to jail. He was serving 20 years for already carrying out a similar crime, aggravated kidnapping. You look back as a juvenile, he had a long record. Should this man have ever been walking freely in the streets?
In theory, no, but 20 years is a pretty long sentence. I would defer to the prosecutors and the judge who signed off on that agreement. But what I don't like is that he currently has a bond. I don't think that that's appropriate. And while he's indigent, there could be somebody out there who somehow sees that this is a high-profile case, decides to put down the 10% on the $500,000 bond, and he gets out. That to me would be a miscarriage of justice. I think the judge needs to revoke bond immediately.
I would ask you what would happen next then. We do know that he, as far as his representation is concerned, he's been issued a court-appointed attorney, has been enlisted to represent him. The judge scheduled a second court date now. That is expected Wednesday, tomorrow, September 7th, 9 a.m. What happens next here, Mark?
Well, he enters a not guilty plea, which doesn't mean that he's saying I'm innocent. What he's doing is he's saying, okay, not guilty is also tantamount or equal to not proven, because we don't have any evidence now, and he does enjoy the presumption of innocence in a court of law. And then his court-appointed attorneys will work this case, as do I on all of my homicide cases, get all of the evidence, make sure that everything was seized constitutionally, and that they can prove this case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. They'll then either go to trial or they'll work out some type of plea bargain down the road.
We will be watching it all. Just an incredibly sad, tragic story that we have been watching for quite some time. And we know that after his arrest even, he didn't even help authorities find her body. They had to do it on their own. We'll be watching all of it. Mark, thank you very much for joining us on that.
All right, everybody, that's older content pertaining to Eliza Fletcher and Cleotha Abston Henderson. I played this content because I wanted you all to hear what this defense attorney had to say about the motive. Maybe he likes doing these things. I concur. It's obvious. But the sick part of this story is that Cleotha has been liking these things since about 11 years old. So I want you all to jog your memory back to when you were 11 years old, 13 years old, whichever the correct number is. It really doesn't matter. 11, 12, 13, it's all the same to me. What were you doing at 11 and 12 years old? Playing with games, dolls, what? Hide and go seek, board games? Were you active in sports? Did you get along with your parents? Did your parents treat you well? Because you see, these are all the things that have formed Cleotha Abston Henderson. Cleotha, I know you don't want me to use Abston because you're fucking mad at your mama. Well, that's too damn bad. Because I realize you have mommy issues. They usually do. Whenever they like attacking women, putting their hands on women, beating women, raping women, kidnapping women, oh, they have mommy issues. That's why you dropped the Abston name. Oh, Queen picked that up right away. The judge, he's in court. Sir, excuse me? Cleotha Henderson. Well, what about Abston? Then he starts making up some damn excuse about IDs and all that. Cut the crap. You drop Abston because mommy disowned you when you were arrested for the kidnapping of Eliza. So you said, okay, mommy's mad at me. I'm going to drop the Abston name. You think your mommy cares? That woman somewhere eating apple pie, pumpkin pie somewhere, she ain't thinking about you. Because that's possibly the reason why you are the way you are. Because mommy never thought about you. How about that? Daddy never thought about you. We're going to chop up why Cleotha is who he is. Because you see, it's those little things that turn into big things, which led us to September 2nd. The things that people take for granted. How you talk to your children. How you treat your children. What you subject your children to. See, it's those little things that don't seem important at the time. You know, the little nasty names you call your kids, little motherfucker, bitch, whore. Yeah, I'm going to say that during this live. I wanted to try to keep the copacetic, but you know how the queen gets. See, it's those little things. Different people coming in and out of your house, smoking, chiefing, getting high, cutting up dope, selling dope. Felonious behavior with children, men and women having sex, children watching, seeing, hearing. See, it's those little things that don't mean nothing at the time. But oh, they will count later. And that's why we're talking about this thing, Cleotha Abston Henderson. Some of you may not know that Cleopa's father is in penitentiary for murder. Shut your mouth. My, the apple and the tree, how far it fell. Not very far. Cleopa is a product of his mother and father. They may never want to own that they created this monster. And hey, we've got some people who will swear for God, I was a great parent. I don't know what happened to my child. Oh, she was just wayward. He was just wayward. That could be so true. But this is one thing I've learned about that. Everything is about interpretation, you see. Because I don't really know what's going on in your house. And I don't know what you're doing to your kid. I don't know how you're talking to your kid. I don't know what you were doing with your kid when your kid was in the womb. I don't know nothing. And I don't claim to know. But I know there's some nasty beasts out here raising kids. I think YouTube has shown us that in the news, how nasty some of you all are. So you can't really be too shocked when you hear your kid raped a grown man. Let's go there. For some who are coming into the chat and don't know Cleopa's history, at 11 years old, 11 to 13 years of age, Cleopa raped a grown man. Put that on paper. Some of you are going to say, well, wait a minute, Queen. Well, wait. What do you mean he raped a man? I said what I said. A child raped a man. Now, I want you to pause for just a second before you doze off and go to sleep. How does a child rape a man? I'll wait. I want you to think about what I just said. A child raped a grown man. How old was the man? Who was the man? How did it come to be that Cleopa would rape a grown man? What would possess a child to rape a grown man? Even if it was a child, it's still heinous. Because in your mind, you're saying to yourself, listening, somebody had to have done something to this kid to put him in this predicament. Because I've told you all this 1,000 times, the stats don't lie. Most say that serial killers were molested as children. Now, I've brought you content about Jeffrey Dahmer, and what is the first thing Mr. Lionel says? Jeffrey's daddy. No, he wasn't touched. No. He wasn't molested. No. We didn't do nothing to him. Nobody did anything to him. I don't know what somebody did to Jeffrey Dahmer. And Mr. Lionel, you don't either. Because we know back in those days, everything was hush hush. So who knows what was going on with your kid? Because I got just a inkling of discernment that Jeffrey Dahmer's mother was erratic. That's where Jeffrey gets the compulsion to want to control. The father was laid back, more docile in behavior, and that's where Jeffrey Dahmer got the shyness from. See, Queen watches everything. The fact that he liked drilling holes in the skull, that comes from you, Mr. Lionel, because you were the scientist. Now, you may not be a murderer. You may not have thought about murdering. Even your wife, first wife, she may not have thought about murdering. But the point is, your characteristics, Jeffrey Dahmer carried. So we cross over to here, moons later, to Cleopa. I noticed in court, they show him briefly in this content I played for you. Cleopa's awfully thin looking. And I do believe he's a tall man. So I brought you content from my perception of Cleopa, is that Cleopa is an addict. Queen knows street folks well. She knows their habits. She knows when she's looking at an addict. And as soon as I saw the girl who he stayed with, I knew what time of day it was. I said, oh, hell yeah. These are crackheads. These are crackheads all day long. What's this rage? Drug fuel. Because you have heard content from sadists. The certain things get them off and get them crunk. Jeffrey Dahmer's alcohol. We've learned that about him. He was a drunk. He was a drunk high school. He continued to drink. That's why he was released from the military, for those who didn't know. Oh, Queen's going to give you the bang now. So could it be Jeffrey Dahmer, serial killer, Hannibal Lecter in the making, and Cleotha, crackhead, drug infused? Maybe the drug incites something in him. See, we don't even know if he was using when he was a child. You do have those rare cases of children using narcotics. Led by example. They see it, they hear it, parents getting high, parents selling it. They want to taste. They're curious. That's how the cat got caught up experimenting. This is a very strange story, because when you listen at this defense attorney talk about the motive, the state doesn't have to prove anything. That is so true. It is the burden of the defense. Why? Cleotha did this because of this. So, will Cleotha take a plea, which will mean absolutely nothing because he ain't coming out of there. So I don't even know what a plea would actually mean for him. Because they're going to bring up his old crimes, such as the new one that's on the book, 2021, of raping that black girl. I don't think there's going to be a plea. Better pray he's not offered the death penalty, because a gun was used in this crime. What was the motive for this crime? Does it matter? Because in the end, it really won't matter why Cleotha lied in wait for Eliza Fletcher. Surveillance says they have him on camera sitting around for 24 minutes. Exactly where was Cleotha Abston Henderson lying in wait? I'm curious. Parked on the side of the street? Sitting in the road? That wouldn't be a good idea, considering university police could come through, pull up. Sir, can I help you? What's going on? You stranded? Nah. You parked your car. Where did you park your car, Cleotha? So that leads one to believe, as was said in his commentary, Cleotha was a bad boy. He was lying in wait. But why? Because Cleotha had seen Eliza before. Either 5 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, 1 day ago. Are we going to find out that Cleotha is on surveillance at the university, riding around in the wee hours, waiting on the opportunity to kidnap, assault, and murder Eliza Fletcher? Shut your mouth. Bingo card. That's what's going to be the stunner. Is that they come into court with video footage of this fool watching this woman beforehand, such as days before, 1 day before. Do you know how scary that is, if that is true? Besides the crime itself. That all this time you're getting up in the AM to run, to get your exercise, stay healthy. Somebody's been watching you and you haven't been paying attention. See, it's dangerous to go anywhere at that time of the morning alone because you're vulnerable. Where's the weapon? Where's the mace? Please tell me she had nothing on her person. No mace in Memphis? Memphis is dangerous. Memphis and ATL are running neck to neck with crime, kidnappings, carjackings, assault, murder. You can't be caught slipping. That's the spoken word. I don't care what your race is. I don't care where you live. I don't care what your neighborhood is. Because they are hijacking human beings in both cities. So you walking around looking pretty with your Rolls Royce and your Lamborghini, you are a walking, moving target. And you're a target if you're driving an old damn Ford Taurus. They don't care. You step outside and come back in and breathing, you did good that day. That's how bad it is in Memphis, ATL, Chicago. That's a spoken word. And many of you are sitting here thinking, my God, what is she saying? I'm telling you the truth. And you better hope they don't push your damn door in, because if they don't catch you slipping outside, they will push your damn door in. How about that? So it don't matter about you running at 4 a.m. I'll come to your house, take you out your damn bed. Yeah, it's that grimy out here. See, you trust no one. There's no such thing as loyalty. But Eliza obviously didn't care. I'm going to run. It's my freedom. It's what I do. But was it the right thing to do? Jogging at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to say this. Some people may not like what I'm going to say. I ain't running no damn where at 4 in the morning. I don't give a damn if the population of the town is 200. Hell to the no. Because you see, there is a sadist lying in wait in every jurisdiction. And that's where people get mistaken. But we ain't got that going on here. Oh, no, they don't do that here. Not yet. Not yet. I wouldn't run nowhere this time of night because the devil is always busy. And there's always that chance that somebody is watching, lurking. You got to understand that. They'll take you in the daytime. So why would you think they would have a problem with snatching you up at 4 a.m.? And God forbid they got a friend along. Tag team hour. Oh, yeah. We learned that from Holly Bobo here in Tennessee. They were working with a team. Shannon Christian. Her boyfriend here in Tennessee, the most diabolical case ever repeated in history in Knoxville, Tennessee. It was a group of them. Bunch of young blacks sitting in a car line in wait to carjack some innocent people, happen to be a white couple. And the details are horrendous, what they did to that girl and that boy. So don't ever get it twisted. It can't happen to you. Oh, hell yeah, it can happen to you. Because you go about your day, you ain't thinking, you ain't looking. Even in the dark, we goof off. I've done it tonight. I beat myself up every time I go out. I come in and I get mad at myself saying, why do you have all this stuff to unload out this damn trunk? It's getting dark. All somebody got to do is come around the corner, push you into your damn trunk. I thought about that the other day when something rolled all the way to the back of the trunk. You know Queen was cussing. I said, how the hell? That thing is way up in the back of that trunk. Here I am in the dark, all the way in the trunk trying to pull something out in the dark. And people would say, Angela, you know better. You talk about this stuff all the time on your channel. Why are you fooling with that in the dark? Because I'm obsessive compulsive. I got to get it done right then. Well, guess what? That's what the predator is waiting on. A dummy like me. I admit it. Damn, she's bent over all the way in her trunk. Push her in. But we get her key first. I got to check myself. I got to check myself. And this is why we have these stories, because we don't check ourselves. We got to stop doing these crazy things. Nighttime shopping, bad idea. You want to do it because it's quiet. Ain't nobody walking around Walmart, blah, blah, blah. I used to love going in Walmart after I would leave a club. I used to do this crazy shit. Leave the club and go shop in Walmart because I loved that it was quiet. Nobody was in there. I could just have my way in Walmart. But the stupid thing is, who's to say that somebody's waiting on my dumb ass to come out of Walmart? Bingo card. Pushing out of bags full of goodies. And I'm going to tell you a story that's true about Queen's dumb decisions late night. One night, Queen has left the bar years ago. And I said, I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to go shopping in Walmart. So I decided to go in electronics. No, matter of fact, let me take that back. I hadn't been drinking. This is before I was really hanging tough. This is when I was wanting to buy a flat screen. Let me take that back. I think this was 09. 2000, no, maybe 2010. I said, I'm gonna get me a flat screen. Everybody's buying flat screen TVs. I'm gonna go in here, buy me a flat screen. It was later at night. I had a pocket full of money. And I was going to buy a flat screen. Because I didn't want nobody seeing me bring in the flat screen during the day. Because my neighbors were nosy. So I said, I don't want nobody seeing me buy this flat screen. So I'm going to wait till nighttime. And I'm going to go buy the TV late. So I go to the back of electronics. I'm looking around, trying to decide which TV I wanted. And I really wasn't pleased with the TVs. Because this is at this time, you know, I'm used to a 32-inch being like the old ones, they were really, really big and bulky. So my eyes and my visual was accustomed to that size of the TV, not the narrow flat screens. So I was wrangling with myself back in electronics, like, do you really want to spend money for this flat screen? Because it doesn't look like the older TVs. And my mind was stuck on the older TVs. Well, while I'm sitting there trying to decide on which TV I wanted, there were two white men circling the aisles. And I said to myself, survival mode. I went in survival mode right when I saw those two white men circling the aisle. And then they would be still. And I knew what time of day it was. I said, oh, shit. They know you got some money and they're waiting to see what you're getting ready to put in a buggy. When I tell you those two white men didn't leave that electronics and it was obvious what time of day it was, they were waiting to see what I was going to get. Because every time I took a step, they took a step. I moved to the right, they moved to the right. And I said, Queen is a lot of things, but stupid ain't one of them. Store security won't matter, sweetheart, if somebody tries to follow you home, pull a gun on you, that shit don't mean nothing because people are thirsty. I said to myself, Self, we gonna buy a TV somewhere else. It ain't gonna be here. Not tonight. So as I'm coming out of electronics, I said, let's see if they follow me all the way out. What do you think? Every step I took, they took a step. Owl for owl. And I told myself, we gonna fight all the way out this damn parking lot if need be. Because I knew what time of day it was. They saw me looking at the TVs. They knew, okay, she's interested. She's got some money on her, which I did. And they were waiting to see me put the TV in the buggy, take it to the counter, ring it up. But my better half told me what time of day it was. Don't put a TV in the buggy. Because there was nobody back there but us. So that's why I knew what time of day it was. It's late. I'm the only one in electronics. And they see I've got a buggy. They knew she ain't got nothing else in that buggy. She's coming to buy a TV. And let me tell you, I strode up out of Walmart with nothing. And I had those keys ready. And I hurried and got in my car and I bolted up out that damn parking lot. You see, you got to be aware of your surroundings because you can't be caught slipping out here. All that talking on phones and gabbing and stuff, telling stuff when you're out in public, you got to watch people. Because they're watching you. See, you don't even think about that. Another thing I tell the ladies, stop carrying those big ass purses with you. I don't care about it being Michael Kors, Gucci, Dooney and Burke. Queen has had every name brand purse known to man. I don't carry him outside that damn door. I got a closet full of purses. I got a purse right now that if somebody was to snatch that purse, they'd have a good day. That's how much it's worth. They could damn near probably take it and put a down payment on a car. It ain't left this house. It ain't leaving out of here. Because that's what they're looking for. Oh, look at her. She's got a nice little jewelry on. Oh, she's got that nice purse. You think the thieves don't know you're carrying an Hermes bag, a Gucci purse? And then you got it full. And then you be digging down in there like you got gold down in there. They're looking at you like, look at this fool out here with this damn big old pocketbook. Oh, I know she got all kind of stuff in there. Guess what? Queen is walking around with a crossover bag. Ain't nothing in there. A little bit of hand sanitizer, the keys, phone, wallet, mace, and a little calendar. Because I ain't stupid enough to walk out here with no big ass purse. Because that's the first thing the thief gonna say. She ain't got nothing in that little bitty thing. That little crossover bag. The workout bag. She ain't got nothing in there. That's what you want them to think. That she ain't got nothing in that bag. Why did Cleotha kill this Caucasian lady? Was it a race? Because what you have to ask yourself is, he pulled a gun on that girl, that black girl at that apartment. He didn't kill her. Why not? The girl he met on the date site. She's now suing the city of Memphis because of the backlog of the DNA kit. And I will have to say that people are going to say that Memphis dropped the ball with the black woman versus the white woman, because when I read you this content, it was obvious. They sent off her information from the slides and DNA to FBI, Johnny on the spot. The black girl waited 11 months. You know that looks bad. Come on now. And people will say it's her status. Caucasian lady, fine family, mother, children. But how's that fair to the other black girl and the other people he's probably assaulted? Because we don't know who else he's assaulted. You have to treat everybody the same, no matter what the race is, no matter what the background is. And when I was reading that tonight, I said, man, this is jacked up. They sent those slides off that he came up out of, Johnny on the spot, and got a hit. Now, how bad does that look versus the case from 2021, where her DNA kit, rape kit lied in wait 11 months? Because you see, had you put a rush on that girl's kit, Eliza Fletcher possibly be alive today. And as this attorney said in this commentary, imagine had some crazy nut decided to bond him out. Because we've seen that happen. Let me tell you what would have happened. He would have bonded out on the kidnapping charges. And then when they came back with the murder charge, once they found her body, he would have went on the run. Hey, A-Balance, thank you, honey. He would have gone on the run. And then we would have been looking for this fool, wondering where the hell he is. You got to treat everybody the same. Black, white, Hispanic, Indian, it's all the same, because that's a bad look for a black city. Now, some people say, well, it's race, it ain't race. It still looks bad no matter how you look at it, because you got to call a spade a spade. You put a rush on that DNA on them slides as soon as you knew who she was. And had you done the same to the black woman, Eliza Fletcher could possibly be alive today, because he'd be locked up for the rape of that girl. And we know he likes guns because he pulled a gun on her. It's the first thing she said, "Good morning, America," last week. I walk in, he didn't want me to see his face. He covered my face with a t-shirt, put a gun to my head. So we know he carries a gun because he shot Eliza Fletcher in the back of the head. So there's no way I'm going to sit here and think that black girl's lying. But what you have to ask yourself is the ultimate question. Why did he not kill the black girl? Why did he kill Eliza Fletcher? How long had he been watching Eliza Fletcher? Day 1, day 2, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes. He was out riding around. What? Had he seen her the day before, week before? What? Because you got to ask yourself, how long had he been watching her? Because he's on surveillance 24 minutes. And you know he had to be parked because he ain't stupid enough to just let that damn car idle in the middle of the street. For what? So he sat where for 24 minutes? Come on, you guys. Put your thinking caps on. Where was he parked for 24 minutes? Because somebody don't want to accept the fact that this possibly ain't random. There's no such thing as repeating that to the public. See, that's why I tell you, even sometimes law officials don't think about what they're telling us. We got him on camera sitting for 24 minutes. Yeah, doing what exactly? Because you keep telling us, oh, no, they don't know each other. No, it was random. How can it be random if he sat somewhere for 24 minutes? Doing what for 24 minutes? He just sat somewhere for 24 minutes thinking what? Some random chicks getting ready to walk down the sidewalk. Do you know that was a busy intersection where he snatched her up? Busy enough to where only a fool would have done it right there. Because I brought you content showing you what it looked like during the day. Now, naturally at night, the kids were probably in their bed sleep because they had to go to school the next morning, but its principle, it still was busy enough somebody could have seen her. Right, he'd been there before. Thank you. So, Memphis Police Department, it can't be random. He may not have known her name, may not have anything to do with that lawyer he put in the trunk years ago, but he's seen her before. He's seen her run before. He's been out there scrolling before, and possibly he built up the courage on that morning. This is fucked up. Why did he do it? Don't I always tell you don't ask why, but ask why not? You got to think like the sadist. I did it because I could. I don't need your permission. I'm going to bring you a little information from Wikipedia. Why the sadist is who he is. Causes of sexual violence. There are many theories explaining the causes of sexual violence. These theories include military conquest, socioeconomics, anger, power, sadism, traits, ethical standards, laws, and evolutionary pressures that lend some explanation to the causes of sexual violence, such as rape, molestation, sexual harassment, stalking, etc. Most of the research of the causes of sexual violence has only been done on male offenders and has largely ignored female perpetrated sexual violence due to lack of data and has been target of criticism. Interesting. Why is that? Because when I was looking in the YouTube queue tonight to bring you this content, or this morning rather, I kept saying to myself, dang, this is crazy. What is this woman raping a 15-year-old kid? And we know that women get less time in prison for rape of a minor. Why is that? Because we're seeing more and more cases of women raping boys. Immature women fascinated with children. And I always tell you that the reason why these people like kids is because they never grew up, such as R. Kelly. It's already been proven. R. Kelly never grew up. His mother left him in the house at an age when he should have been out socializing with children. So I always ask myself, why R. Kelly? Why did you let that child stay in? Why did you try to covet that child? What was wrong with him to where you didn't want him outside playing with the other kids? He was gifted. Yeah, he was gifted, all right. He was a sadist in the making. Maybe you should have let the little boy go outside and play. Because he's being fondled by the guy, your neighbor, messing with your boy children. Then your daughter was fondling R. Kelly. So we're talking about double threat. Neighbor fondling the boy and his own damn sister playing funny games with her brother. So you have to go back in the book and say, well, somebody was playing funny games with the sister. So who was playing funny games with the sister? Well, quiet as it's kept, they said it was the grandfather. Or somebody played funny games with the mother. So you see, it's a generational curse. One sadist begets another. That's how it starts. Children just don't wake up touching, assaulting other children. Yes, they're curious, but you also have to ask yourself who's been messing with the children. Because sometimes it is a case of child molestation. you'd like to donate to this great network, Everyday Shenanigans, $ DeGangi, 129 Cash App. Clinical psychologist Nicholas Groff has described several different types of rape. A detailed conceptual analysis shows that objectification might underlie denial of agency and personhood that leads to rape. Anger rapists. The goal of these rapists is to humiliate, debase, and hurt their victims. They use an excessive amount of force whether or not victims resist. Also, they express their contempt for the victims through physical violence and profane language. For these rapists, sex is a weapon to defile and degrade the victim. Rape constitutes the ultimate expression of their anger. This rapist considers rape the ultimate offense that can commit against the victim. Friends and acquaintances of anger rapists may report a dark side to their personalities or lifestyles. Anger rape is characterized by physical brutality. Much more physical force is used during the assault than would be necessary if the intent was simply to overpower the victim and achieve penetration. This type of offender attacks their victim by grabbing, striking, knocking the victim to the ground, beating them, tearing their clothes, and raping them. The experience for the offender is one of the conscious anger and rage. Was Cleotha an anger rapist? I didn't even know there were several types of rape. Lord have mercy, somebody help me. Power assertive rapists. For these rapists, rape becomes a way to compensate for their underlying feelings of inadequacy and feeds their issues of mastery, control, dominance, strength, intimidation, authority, and capability. The intent of the power rapist is to assert their competency. The power rapist relies upon verbal threats, intimidation with a weapon, and only uses the amount of force necessary to subdue the victims. Rapes committed by this perpetrator are more impulsive, spontaneous, and unplanned. Victims are frequently encountered by coincidence, such as at pubs, clubs, or parties. Their attack is characterized by a modest level of force applied over a brief period of time. Unlike the power reassurance rapist, the power assertive rapist sees himself as a macho man who wants to prove his virility to women. His language is abrasive and laced with profanities. So, similarities between power assertive and the anger rapist is the language. The power rapist often will assume that the assault was not an assault because of their rape supportive attitudes. Power rapists are often in a mindset that they are entitled to their own pleasure regardless of the victim's feelings or lack of desire. In the article, Sexual Perpetrators, Justifications for Their Actions, it says, one perpetrator who forced his steady dating partner to have sex after she willingly touched his penis said, I felt as if I had gotten something that I was entitled to, and I felt like I was repaying her for sexually arousing me. There is a clear tendency for rapists to have fantasies about sexual experiences and assume that they are enjoying it or grateful for it even when they resist, because this is only a fantasy. The rapist does not feel reassured for long by either their own performance or the victim's response. The rapist feels that they must find another victim, convinced that this victim will be the right one. Interesting. Hence, their offenses may become repetitive and compulsive. They may commit a series of rapes over a short period of time. Very interesting information, because as I said, I never knew there were different degrees of rapists. But I guess so. Every rapist tactic, his mode of movement is not the same as the last guy's mode of movement, commentary, how he approached her. I think I heard that once of a rapist who once said, I ain't trying to hurt her. I love women. That's what some of you think, but I love women. And he was the type of rapist that liked to perform oral sex on his victims. And in his sick mind, he believed she enjoyed it. That's what he told the interviewer. I know they liked it. Why would they not like it? I liked it. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? But that's the point. The mindset of the sadist is different than somebody with a rational thinking mind. This rapist said, I know they like it. I like doing it, so I know they like it. And excuse my French when I say what I'm going to say. The interviewer said, well, what made you think that your victims like you performing oral sex on them? And he said, because they came. Lord have mercy. See, this is what happens when you're dealing with a dodo bird. Well, despite the fact that she doesn't want the sex, her passing fluids is a normal reaction because she's being penetrated. But you see, you couldn't make somebody with an ill mind understand that, because that's what he thought. Oh, so she passed fluids, she enjoyed the oral sex. This was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. Courtesy of Forensic Files, if you're curious to the storyline. All right, I'm going to continue. As I said, the perpetrator is saying, I felt like I was repaying her for sexually arousing me. There is a clear tendency for a rapist to have fantasies about sexual experiences and assume that they are enjoying it or grateful for it even when they resist. I think I'm repeating that. Because this is only a fantasy, the rapist does not feel reassured for long. So I think that's very interesting information, why they repeat the offense. And this is kind of similar to drugs. My father once told me this about people who smoke crack. Now, my father was never, a crackhead or used drugs, but he had been around people that use, and he said, the reason why people continue to get high is because they're trying to get the high that they first got. So in reading this, that takes me back to what my father said about drug addicts and the rapists. Maybe in his sick mind, he's trying to get the one, the perfect victim. And maybe somewhere in that victimization, he ain't satisfied. It's like, this ain't what I wanted it to be. This ain't how it was supposed to be. Because like they said, you don't know what's going to jump off with the victim. You don't know what the victim's going to say or do. You don't know how he's going to perform. Can he perform? All those things matter to the sadist. And with the information I brought you about Jeffrey Dahmer, Dahmer was known to pick his victims for whatever reason. But he says out of his own mouth, there were times when I woke up coming down from my high from the drinking, because everybody knows Jeffrey Dahmer was an alcoholic. He said, I wasn't even attracted. I wasn't even attracted to them once I started to come to. I thought, what the hell? So wait a minute. You picked the victims out, Jeffrey, but when you were coming off the alcohol and woke up and started looking at your victim, Jeffrey Dahmer said, well, some of them I wasn't even attracted to once I came to, because he would black out from the drinking. That's the most interesting information I've heard from a sadist / serial killer. There were times when I wasn't even attracted to the men I had brought home and intended to assault, torture, and kill. And he also admitted that a lot of men who were able to make it out of that apartment only lived because he drank so much that he blacked out. And he didn't have the strength to commit the murder because he'd be weak from drunkenness. Just a little bit of information for those that did not know that. Very interesting. The sadistic rapists. These rapists have a sexual association with anger and power so that aggression and the infliction of pain itself are eroticized. For this rapist, sexual excitement is associated with the inflicting of pain upon their victim. The offender finds the intentional maltreatment of their victim intensely gratifying and takes pleasure in the victim's torment, pain, anguish, distress, helplessness, and suffering. They find the victim struggling with them to be an erotic experience. The sadistic rapist assaults are deliberate, calculated, and pre-planned. They will often wear a disguise or will blindfold their victims. Now, know that he did do this with the girl from last September 2021. Prostitutes or other people whom they perceive to be vulnerable are often the sadistic rapist's targets. The victims of a sadistic rapist may not survive the attack. For some offenders, the ultimate satisfaction is gained from murdering the victim. Let's talk about what was said in this commentary of the sadistic rapist. It has been said that a thief does not always cross over to become a murderer, such as somebody robbing a store, Walmart, holding up the convenient mart. Just give me the money and I'm out of here. So what happens to the guy that walks into the 7-Eleven, pulls out the gun and says, give me all the money, takes the money, but then shoots the cashier? Same thing with climbing through the window, attacking somebody on a public street, putting them in their car, pulling them into the woods, whatever, raping the victim, assaulting the victim, torturing the victim, and then murdering the victim. Because as I brought you commentary with these said rapists, it is true. There are different rapists because every story is not the same. One woman will have a mild-mannered rapist. Hey, I won't hurt you. You're going to like this. He assaults her, may even kiss her, pretend to be affectionate, comb her hair, brush her hair. I've heard all these type of crazy things, and then leave her. Then you got the rapist described in this commentary. He's angry. He's mad. He's cursing her out, calling her names, torturing her, pulling her hair, cutting on her, and then he kills her. What's the difference? So there is truth. There are different types of rapists because every woman's story is not the same as another woman's story. So why does one use subtleties versus one that uses vulgarities, torture, and then takes her life? I'm going to tell you about the one that's the crossover rapist. And that's just Queen's assertion. Many men who rape, plural, become what I would call a rapist / serial killer. It's because he was ID'd. And I'm sure many rapists will tell you this that are now incarcerated. I only killed them because I didn't want her to identify me to call the police. So what started out as just the guy climbing through the window, the guy jimmying the door, he has now become a serial killer because he doesn't want to be ID'd. And it makes logical sense. They've already come to the house once, my job, looking for me. I fit the description of the guy. And let's just say they happened to get off on a technicality, or there wasn't enough evidence. She couldn't ID him in the lineup. So now we got the sadist walking free. So he's saying to himself, damn, that was close. They almost got me there. I can't let that happen again. Can't let another one ID me. So you know by now, he's got a rush from almost being caught. And one may actually be scared. Who's to say? But the compulsion, such as what Jeffrey Dahmer says, I can't help myself. I got to do it again. So the next time I go out and look for a victim, she can't ever talk to describe what I look like. Because I ain't going to jail. And I ain't going to prison. The propensity models of sexual aggression. The propensity approach to sexual aggression focuses on the traits, features that are stable and fixed over time that can increase the probability that someone will commit an act of sexual violence. Cognitive and attitudinal biases. The cognitive traits and attitudinal biases associated with a propensity to commit acts of sexual aggression, boy, that's some big words, come from socio-cultural research that says that forms of sexual aggression come from false beliefs of gender relations, misdirected objectives, only dating to have sex, and erroneous expressions of social interactions linked to gender relations. What the hell are they saying? Research focusing specifically on gender relations with the context of sexual assault have found that conformance to notions of male entitlement, suspicion of the opposite sex, perceiving violence as a reasonable method for solving problems, and holding the traditional patriarchal attitudes that specific societal roles belong to specific genders are found to adhere to the concept of male entitlement superiority in the context of gender relations. The cognitive biases that add to one's propensity to commit acts of sexual violence include a feeling of entitlement to sex, and the beliefs that women are sex objects. Men's sexual drive is uncontrollable. Society is dangerous, and women are predictable and dangerous. Neuropsychological processes. Woo, these some big words. Lord have mercy, all this stuff. Neuropsychological deficits that may contribute to the propensity for sexual assault include difficulties in self-regulation, executive functioning problems, perception memory system problems, arousal motivation system deficits, and problems in the action selection system. The difficulties arise when sexual aggressors are not able to understand their emotional states, so that when confronted with a situation that trigger their arousal motivational systems, they become confused and may have issues controlling their behavior, and inability to adapt plans to deal with unforeseen situations, or having limited problem-solving skills. The action selection system, and maintaining maladaptive beliefs categorized by erroneous interpretations of social encounters, perception memory systems, can also contribute to a greater tendency to commit acts of sexual violence. Dear God, what in the hell did I just read? Deviant sexual preferences. Research focusing on the deviant sexual preferences propensity model suggests that people who perpetrate acts of sexual violence are sexually aroused by non-consensual sexual interactions more than consensual sexual interactions. Now that would remind me of Jeffrey Dahmer. He said, I want to be in control. I'm glad this one came up because this is the one that reminds me of Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't want you to talk. I don't want you to say nothing. I don't want you to react. See, that's when you know you're ill. Most men, women make sounds. Excuse my assertion here. But it's normal because we're human. Something feels good, we make sounds, we make noise. Well, think about the serial killer who wants to be in control, such as Jeffrey Dahmer. He doesn't care. He wants you to say anything, do anything. Okay? I want to be in control. Jeffrey Dahmer says this. I brought you this content the other day when I talked about him. He said, I wanted to be in control. So that means he don't want you talking. He don't want you saying anything. He wants to do what he wants to do. I want to tie you up. I want to bind you up. I don't care if you like it. I like it. So I don't want you saying a damn thing. And I'm going to have my way with you. And I'm going to do all these things to you while tied up. Then I'm going to kill you. And sadly, this man believed in torturing the body after the fact. And he also liked having sex with the victims while deceased. having anal sex with the men, which is so bizarre to me. Like, what the hell are you getting out of having sex with a dead body? That shows you right there. He said it. I want control. So that means he's numb. He is not going to even react to emotion, such as what I just said. The man or woman talking to you, caressing you. They're not into that. As it's said here, self-entitlement. I deserve it. I want it. I need it. I gotta have it. I'm gonna take it. I don't need your permission. Dear God, help me. Personality disorders and traits. The last propensity model of sexual violence views the perpetrators of sexual violence through three lenses of different personality traits, with interpersonal functioning being the most important factor in whether a person will have a higher propensity for sexual violence. This model is based on the idea that sexual aggression is indicative of problems starting and managing enjoyable, intimate relationships. Insecure attachment lens. The insecure attachment style lens stems from research done on sexual aggressors that characterized them as people who had insecure attachment styles. As a result of child abuse, parental divorce, bingo card, Jeffrey Dahmer. Got to bring him in there again. Bickering parents back and forth. Couldn't accept parents aren't together. The reason he had to go live with the grandmother, he hated that. You're disrupting the lifestyle he's accustomed to. He's angry. He's bitter. It says here, manifested as low self-esteem and inability to develop relationships with others and significant emotional loneliness. We learned that also about Jeffrey Dahmer. I throw him in here because some of these things are relevant to him, and I've talked about him this week. He was lonely. That is one of the reasons he wanted to keep the men captive in his home. He didn't want them to leave him. Besides him wanting control, Jeffrey Dahmer was a lonely person. And that's this commentary saying he never built courtships with people. Instead of him going out trying to mate and date and meet a guy and have a whole relationship, he picked up men in the bathhouses. So that's not dating. It's just casual sex. There's no ties in casual sex. I think we all know that. We're grown. Get it, leave, boom, gone. On to the next. Get it, leave, boom, gone. A lot of men operate this way. Some women too. They have no attachments to the body. You could be pretty, handsome, articulate. That don't mean nothing. I just want the sex. I'm out of here. I don't have any attachments to your beauty, your pretty hair, your pretty eyes. Those things are irrelevant to me. You're just a lump of clay. You're an object. The antisocial personality traits combined with contextual, emotional rage, anger, cognitive, irrational thoughts that influence emotions and physiological deviant sexual arousal, factors that increase the probability of committing sexual violence. So this antisocial personality traits, it's called quadripartite lens. It's talking about antisocial traits. Very interesting. This was done by Hall and Hirschman in 1991, and it emphasizes the subsequent consequences of experiencing adversities, abuses in childhood, which can lead to the development of antisocial personality traits in adulthood. The antisocial personality traits combined with contextual, emotional rage, anger, cognitive, irrational thoughts that influence emotions, and the physiological deviant sexual arousal factors that increase the probability of committing sexual violence. We're going to go back up to insecure attachment lens. This is where the insecure attachment style lens stems from research done on sexual aggressors that characterized them as people who had insecure attachment styles as a result of child abuse, parental divorce, as I was speaking of Mr. Dahmer, manifested as low self-esteem, inability to develop relationships with others, and significant emotional loneliness. Through the lens of this model, Sexual aggression is used as a faulty means of fulfilling intimacy needs. Dahmer was lonely. And although it started out with his first victim as a hitchhiker, he wanted company. And we've all wanted company at some point, somebody to come over, talk, laugh, share a drink or two, whatever you're into. And then when they said, well, hey, I gotta go, I got things to do, you took it personal. Well, why you gotta go? You ain't gotta go, do you? Don't leave. I'm enjoying talking to you. Well, I'm sorry, I can come back later. I can come back tomorrow. And that's the end of the conversation. And perhaps they do come back tomorrow or call you on the phone and you build from there. But with this sadist, with Mr. Dahmer, even though this is a little bit off from the killing, it's all the same to me. The loneliness became a breeding ground. And now, I ain't gonna let you go. And that's where all this sadistic behavior came in with him. Keeping the body parts, eating of the body, so on and so forth. Very wicked. Narcissistic personality lens. Lastly, the narcissistic lens emphasizes the assumption that individuals with narcissistic personality traits are more likely to interpret refusal of sexual advances as insults, and in turn will have an adverse reaction to such insults. Narcissistic injury. This lens is best used when describing sexual violence that includes known victims such as incest, date rape, domestic abuse, because it is not able to adequately explain sexual violence such as stranger rape. Individual factors, known victim. Data on sexually violent individuals show that most direct their acts at individuals whom they already know. But allegedly, Cleotha didn't know Eliza Fletcher. So let's try drug-facilitated sexual assault. Bingo card. Queen believes that Cleotha is an addict. His demeanor in court, he was thinner built than the pictures that we've seen of him incarcerated. And as I told you, the woman who opened the door to the reporter had white foam around her mouth, which led the queen to believe she's an addict. She was on heroin, something, and that's what led me to believe that Cleotha Abston Henderson is a crackhead, addict, heroin, pill popper, meth. It's all the same to me. I think he's a doper. So let's read about drug-facilitated sexual assault. Drug-facilitated sexual assault, DFSA, also known as predator rape, is a sexual assault carried out after the victim has become incapacitated due to having consumed alcoholic beverages or other drugs. So this would also be probably conducive to Mr. Dahmer. Alcohol has been shown to play a disinhibiting role in certain types of sexual assault, as having some other drugs, notably cocaine. Alcohol has a psychopharmacological effect on reducing inhibitions, clouding judgments, and impairing the ability to interpret cues. The biological links between alcohol and violence are, however, complex. Research on the social anthropology of alcohol consumption suggests that connections between violence, drinking, and drunkenness are socially learned rather than universal. Okay. Some researchers have noted that alcohol may act as a cultural break time, providing the opportunity for antisocial behavior. Judgments are more likely to act violently when drunk because they do not consider that they will be held accountable for their behavior. I agree. Some forms of group sexual violence are also associated with drinking. In these settings, consuming alcohol is an act of group bonding, where inhibitions are collectively reduced and individual judgment ceded in favor of the group. Bingo card. Young people, high school, college. One drinks of beer, alcohol. Here, you want some? Pass it along. Here, you thirsty? Here, pass it along. Come on, drink. Drink up. Before you know it, It's 5 people, 6 people, 10 people. Everybody's guzzling. Now somebody's throwing up. See where I'm going? Peer pressure. But the sick part of the story is somebody in that group ain't gonna behave properly under the influence. And that's been proven. High schoolers, college boys, college girls, somebody in the group ain't gonna behave. Somebody's crunk now. Somebody's pumped up. Somebody wants to be a little touchy-feely, as this article says. No repercussions. Oh, I was drunk. You know how I get. It's no big deal. You liked it? Come on. We're all drunks. No big deal. At some point, that's not going to work. It's not going to fly. You're going to have to pay the piper. Because you can't use alcohol as an excuse to get high on drugs, snort cocaine, fill up under a lady's dress, grab a woman's breast, grab a woman's buttocks, grab a guy's penis. It's all the same. Oh, girl, you know I was drunk. I was feeling myself. And some of us can say we've done it. We did a little touchy-feely with somebody. We were feeling, as you say, uninhibited. You were just feeling yourself. But, it can have ramifications. That feeling yourself under the influence. Because this is how a lot of things go bump in the night, being under the influence of alcohol and narcotics. Because God forbid, he's touchy-feely. She says no. Come on, you'll like it. I said no. Come on. I said no. Next thing you know, we're grabbing her, punching her. And we're taking it. And then the next day, if he pretends he don't remember, I don't remember doing that. Well, I must have been drunk. Till you find out he does that often. Drunk rape. And then God forbids, drunk rape leads to lucid rape. He ain't had no alcohol. Psychological factors. Thank you all so much for following the content and listening. I really appreciate it. There has been considerable research in recent times on the role of cognitive variables among the set of factors that can lead to rape. A detailed conceptual analysis shows that objectification might underlie denial of agency and personhood that leads to rape. Sexually violent men have been shown to be more likely to consider victims responsible for the rape and less knowledgeable about the impact of rape on the victims. Such men may misread cues given out by women in social situations and may lack the inhibitions that act to suppress associations between sex and aggression. They may have coercive sexual fantasies and overall are more hostile towards women than men who are not sexually violent. In addition to these factors, sexually violent men are believed to differ from other men in terms of impulsivity, and antisocial tendencies. They also tend to have an exaggerated sense of masculinity. Sexual violence is also associated with a preference for impersonal sexual relationships as opposed to emotional bonding, with having many sexual partners and with the inclination to assert personal interest at the expense of others. A further association is with adversarial attitudes on gender, which hold that women are opponents to be challenged and conquered. Research on convicted rapists. Boy, this is a lot of information. I didn't know it was this much. I don't want to bore you all. I'll try to be quick with all this information because it is a lot. Research on convicted rapists have found several important motivational factors in the sexual aggression of males. Those motivational factors repeatedly implicated are having anger at women and having the need to control or dominate them. A study at Marshall, 2001, found that male rapists had less empathy toward women who had been sexually assaulted by an unknown assailant and more hostility toward women than non-sex offenders and non-offender females. Meta-analysis indicate that convicted rapists demonstrate greater sexual arousal to scenes of sexual coercion involving force than do non-rapists. Social factors. Factors operating at a societal level that influence sexual violence include laws and national policies relating to gender equality in general and to sexual violence more specifically, as well as norms relating to the use of violence. While the various factors operate largely at local level within families, schools, workplaces, communities, there are also influences from the laws and norms working at national and even international levels. Family and other social supports. Early childhood environments. There is evidence to suggest that sexual violence is also a learned behavior in some adults, particularly in regard to child sexual abuse. Studies on sexual abuse boys have shown that around 1 in 5 later molest children themselves. Bingo card. I've said this 1,000 times pertaining to sadists, child molesters, rapists, and serial killers. Most of these people as adults were molested as children. And you now hear that the childhood's environment is the reason for the sadistic behavior that we learn later on in the individuals as an adult. Because you have to ask yourself in the situation with Cleotha, how in the hell does a child rape a man? I'm assuming he might have been tall for his age, but let's keep this real. Tall, short, whatever, you can't even comprehend a child raping a grown man. It's crazy if you told us he raped a kid, which I won't doubt that he probably had. They just didn't say anything. He went to juvenile court for raping a man. How do you rape a man? Stay woke, everybody. Childhood environments that are physically violent, emotionally unsupportive, and characterized by competition for scarce resources have been associated with sexual violence. Sexual aggressive behavior in young men, for instance, has been linked to witnessing family violence and having emotionally distant and uncaring fathers. Men raised in families with strongly patriarchal structures are also more likely to become violent, to rape and use sexual coercion against women, as well as to abuse their intimate partners, than men raised in homes that are more egalitarian. Family honor and sexual purity. Another factor involving social relationships is a family's response that blames women without punishing men. And yes, we've seen this a lot. Concentrating instead on restoring lost family honor, such as a response that creates an environment in which rape can occur with impunity. While families will often try to protect female members from rape and may also put their daughters on contraception to prevent visible signs should it occur, there is rarely much social pressure to control young men or persuade them that coercing sex is wrong. Instead, in some countries, there is frequently support for family members to do whatever is necessary, including murder, to alleviate the shame associated with the rape or sexual transgression. In a review of all honor killings occurring in Jordan in 1995, researchers found that in over 60% of the cases, the victim died from multiple gunshot wounds, mostly at the hands of her brother. In cases where the victim was a single pregnant woman, the offender was either acquitted of murder and received a reduced sentence. War and natural disasters. Lawlessness during wars and civil conflicts can create a culture of impunity towards human rights abuses of civilians. Some irregular armies and militias tacitly endorse looting of civilian areas as a way for troops to supplement their meager incomes and promotes pillaging and rape of civilians, as a reward for victory. In 2008, the United Nations Security Council argued that women and girls are particularly targeted by the use of sexual violence, including as a tactic of war to humiliate, dominate, instill fear in, disperse, and or forcibly relocate civilian members of a community or ethnic group. Refugees and internally displaced people who flee their homes during war and major disasters can experience human trafficking for sexual or labor exploitation due to the breakdown of economies and law and order. Speaking at the UN General Assembly in 2010, the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, its causes and consequences noted women's particular vulnerability and increased risk of experiencing violence following disasters. And guess we've heard that with Katrina. All those people piled in the dome, and we started hearing that the women were being raped because close proximity. Who's going to say something? It's very interesting. Following the 2010 Haiti earthquake, large numbers of women and girls living in internally displaced persons camps experienced sexual violence, as I just said, what happened in Louisiana. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights recognized the need for state actors to respond to gender-based violence committed by private actors in response to a petition by Haitian groups and human rights lawyers calling on the Haitian government and international actors to take immediate measures like increasing lighting, security, access to medical care to address sexual violence against women and girls in the IDP camps. Poverty. Poverty is linked to both the perpetration of sexual violence and the risk of being a victim of it. Several authors have argued that the relationship between poverty and perpetration of sexual violence is mediated through forms of crisis of masculine identity. Bourgeois, writing about life in East Harlem, New York, United States, described how young men felt pressured by models of successful masculinity and family structure passed down from their parents and grandparents' generations, together with modern-day ideas of manhood that also place an emphasis on material consumption. Trapped in their slums with little or no available employment, they are unlikely to attain either of these models or expectations of masculine success. In these circumstances, ideals of masculinity are reshaped to emphasize misogyny, substance abuse, and participation in crime, and also xenophobia and racism. Gang rape and sexual conquest are normalized. As men turn their aggression against women, they can no longer control patriarchally or support economically. Physical environment. While fear of rape is typically associated with being outside the home, the great majority of sexual violence actually occurs in the home of the victim or the abuser. Nonetheless, abduction by a stranger is quite often the prelude to a rape, and the opportunities for such an abduction are influenced by the physical environment. The social environment with the community is, however, usually more important than the physical surrounding. How deeply entrenched in a community beliefs in a male superiority and male entitlement to sex will greatly affect the likelihood of sexual violence taking place, as will the general tolerance in the community of sexual assault and the strength of sanctions, if any, against perpetrators. For instance, in some places, rape can even occur in public, with passerby refusing to intervene. That's a very interesting commentary there, because we have to ask ourselves this situation with Cleotha. We have new information that he raped a black woman in an apartment, a vacant apartment. Perfect opportunity. Mislead the victim to come pick him up. She goes to the door. He opens the door and then pounces on her, pulls out a gun and rapes her, covers her face with a t-shirt. In the situation with Eliza Fletcher, she's running oblivious that somebody's watching her in an open space. But he knows he's best not rape her outside, as so nobody will recognize him. So he shoves her inside of an SUV and takes her off into the SUV, possibly assaulting, beating her to subdue her in the SUV, and then take her to the next place, which is the abandoned house 7 miles or so up the road. I don't know what else he did to her there, inside the truck or outside, but he shoots her and leaves her dead. And this would be very sick to know that a person would be willing to rape you in public and people are visibly there and nobody would stop it. I would pray that nobody in their right mind would watch another human take advantage of a human in public. Or assault you in public. I would pray somebody would intervene. Legal and social deterrence of victims reporting sexual assault. Women in various countries face serious risk if they report rape. These risks include being subjected to violence, including honor killings by their families, being prosecuted for sex outside of marriage, or being forced to marry their rapists. This creates a culture of impunity that allows rape to go unpunished. Delegation clauses used in many nursing homes contracts have been blamed for effectively permitting the rape of residents. Social norms. Sexual violence committed by men is to a large extent rooted in ideologies of male sexual entitlement. These belief systems grant women extremely few legitimate options to refuse sexual advances. Some men thus simply exclude the possibility that their sexual advances towards a woman might be rejected, or that a woman has the right to make an autonomous decision about participating in sex. In some cultures, women as well as men regard marriage as entailing the obligation on women to be sexually available virtually without limit. Though sex may be culturally prescribed at certain times, such as after childbirth or during menstruation. Societal norms around the use of violence as a means to achieve objectives have been strongly associated with the prevalence of rape. In societies with the machismo ideology, emphasizing dominance, physical strength, male honor, rape is more common. Countries with a culture of violence or where violent conflict is taking place experience an increase in almost all forms of violence, including sexual violence. I think most of us know this in third world countries such as the Middle East, Africa. It's accepted. And you dare not open your mouth, you dare not say anything. A woman's place is to be quiet, head down. She doesn't speak. She doesn't speak out. Chosen for a man, vice versa. She doesn't have a say. And I agree, these countries have the worst ideologies and penalties for a woman speaking out, leaving, going on the run, being defiant. Death is usually her fate. And as they say, honor killing by a male relative such as brother or father. Economic factors. Many of the factors operating at a national level have an international dimension. Global trends, for instance, towards free trade have been accompanied by an increase in the movement around the world of women and girls for labor, including for sex work. Economic structural adjustment programs drawn by the international agencies have accentuated poverty and unemployment in a number of countries, thereby increasing the likelihood of sexual trafficking, sexual violence, something particularly noted in Central America, the Caribbean, and parts of Africa. Feminist theories of male-female rape. A feminist theory of male-female rape is summarized by Susan Brownmiller's statement. Rape is nothing more or less than a conscious process of intimidation by which all men keep all women in a state of fear. Some feminists assert that male domination of women in socio, political, and economic domains is the ultimate cause of most rapes, and consider male-female rape to be a crime of power that has little or nothing to do with sex itself. However, in a 1983 study comparing 14 indicators of male dominance and the incidence of rape in 26 American cities found no correlations except one where greater male dominance actually decreased the incidence of rape. Social learning theory of rape is similar to the feminist theory and links cultural traditions such as imitation, sex violence linkage, rape myths, Women secretly desire to be raped. And desensitization to be the core causes of rape. I've brought you content earlier in this live, sorry about that, pertaining to men who will say that during rape. He may tell his victim, you know you wanted it, you know you like it. The fact that a man would think a woman wants to be raped. And you do have people who role play with their partners. Possibly not a good idea, because that can also go too far, if you understand what I'm saying. And I also believe you can set the tone for it to happen for real. Because as I said, the Bible says in Psalms, speak and it shall be so. So just like I talk about true crime, I could also be a victim of true crime. You talk about craziness and toxicity, you're claiming it. Little do you know, you can talk about something. I experienced this last week. Thank you so much, Kathy. Talking about this nonsense last Friday, and I summons the devil after doing a live. Literally, he came out of the computer. Because you could talk about something and bring it to fruition. And that's why sometimes I'm leery when I talk about true crime, because I think about Eliza Fletcher. She enjoyed true crime. She would listen to it while she ran, for those who did not know that. And at one point, she talked about it on her Facebook account or one of her social media accounts. She asked people to suggest a good crime, true crime podcast. Now imagine that. That woman probably had no idea that fascination with true crime, she would eventually be a true crime podcast herself, unfortunately. I do believe that sometimes we can claim this junk out here. I knew that earlier when that iPad started talking in the living room, and I said, the hell is that thing doing talking? Somebody was calling on Messenger on one device, and the iPad started talking on its own. It had been sitting in a chair, plugged up. Nobody was in here to touch it. Nothing. I actually thought somebody was in my apartment. I said, dear God, somebody's in here turning on the iPad. And my friend said, that's what I'm talking about. You're looking at that stuff. You're reading that stuff. You're doing videos about that stuff. And now you're paranoid, thinking somebody's in your house. See, I don't like that feeling. Because when you're a single person, your mind can wander, especially when you're talking about true crime. I don't want to summons the devil here. That's why there needs to be a break. That's just how I feel in talking about violence. Okay. We just talked about feminist theories and women secretly desiring to be raped. Rape culture. Rape culture is a term used within women's studies and feminism, describing a culture in which rape and other sexual violence, usually against women, are common and in which prevalent attitudes, norms, practices, media condone, normalize, excuse, or encourage sexualized violence. Within the paradigm, acts of sexism are commonly employed to validate and rationalize normative misogynistic practices. For instance, sexist jokes may be told to foster disrespect for women and an accompanying disregard for their well-being, which ultimately make their rape and abuse seem acceptable. Examples of behavior said to typify rape culture include victim blaming, trivializing prison rape, and sexual objectification. Rape culture as a concept in social reality was explored in detail in the 1975 film Rape Culture, produced by Margaret Lazarus and Renner Wunderlich for Cambridge Documentary Films. Gender-based socialization and sexual scripts. Studies of college-age sexually active men and women show they often conceptualize men as sexual initiators and women as sexual gatekeepers. It has been argued that sexual assault trials, as well as rape itself, may be influenced by cultural narratives of men as sexual instigators. Boys are brought up to be sexually aggressive, dominant, and conquering as a way of affirming their masculinity. Catherine McKinnon argues that men rape for reasons that they share in common even with those who don't, namely masculinity and their identification with masculine norms, and in particular being the people who initiate sex and being the people who socially experience themselves as being affirmed by aggressive initiation of sexual interaction. According to Check and Malamuth, 1983, men are taught to take the initiative and persist in sexual encounters, while women are supposed to set the limits. This classical sexual script is often popularized through television shows, popular films, and pornography, which depict the man making a sexual advance and the woman initially resisting, but then finally positively responding by falling in love with him or experiencing orgasm. This is by Colin Lee Levy Snyder, 1988, Malamuth and Check, 1981, Smith, 1976, Waggett, 1989. The implied message is that men should persist beyond a woman's protest and women should say no, even if they desire sex. Mullen, Hart, and McCoy, 1991. The more traditional the society, the closer the adherence to this sexual script. For this reason, many men do not believe that a woman means no when she says no, and continue to pressure the woman and ultimately coerce or force her into sex. Consent often becomes confused with submission. In many societies, men who do not act in a traditionally masculine way are ostracized by their peers and considered effeminate. In studies, young males from Cambodia, Mexico, Peru, South Africa reported that they have participated in incidents where girls were coerced into sex, such as gang rapes. And that they did so as a way to prove their masculinity to their friends or under peer pressure and fear that they would be rejected if they did not participate in the assault. I just mentioned that to you earlier. Peer pressure. Come on. Everybody's doing it. Whether they're drinking or not, peer pressure is dangerous. We've seen what happens from bullying, peer pressure. Children don't want to be left out. And before you know it, the story hits the news. And now you got to watch and see who's going to tell the truth about what they did to Jane Doe or John Doe, depending on how sick these minds are. And that's the worst thing you can do is be a follower. Don't ever follow behind other people. Most of us are adults that's listening to this live, but we were all once children. And that is how you can get yourself caught up into something you can't get out of by following in behind other people. Now you throw in alcohol, drugs, it's a recipe for disaster. And many men, women too, have used drugs, alcohol as a way to be free. So they say and so they think. And as this script has shown in this content I've brought you, a way to try to avoid paying the piper. Oh, I was drunk. Oh, I was high. We all do it. It's no big deal. It is a big deal. Sex industry and sex assault. Some theorists charge that the acceptance of these sexual practices increase sexual violence against women by reinforcing stereotypical views about women. We are seen as sex objects which can be used and abused by men. And by desensitizing men, this being one of the reasons why some theorists oppose the sex industry. They argue that pornography eroticizes the domination, humiliation, and coercion of women and reinforces sexual and cultural attitudes that are complicit in rape and sexual harassment. The anti-pornography feminist Andrea Dworkin has famously argued this point in her controversial Pornography, Men Possessing Women, 1981. So do some of you agree? Porn plays a role in ideologies, how men think of women. Women are objects, or no? Evolutionary explanations. Males who, under some circumstances, use force may have had greater reproductive success in the ancestral environment than males who did not employ force. Sociobiological theories of rape are theories that explore to what degree, if any, evolutionary adaptations influence the psychology of rapists. Such theories are highly controversial, as traditional theories typically do not consider rape to be a behavioral adaptation. Some object to such theories on ethical, religious, political, as well as scientific grounds. Others argue that a correct knowledge of the causes of rape is necessary in order to develop effective preventive measures. There is extensive research on sexual coercion. And also, if you want verification through this wikipedia.org information, factors associated with being a victim of sexual violence, types of rape, sexual violence, and women's fear of crime. I know that was a bit winded, but I wanted to bring all of it because I didn't want to leave anything out. I brought you types of rapists: the anger rapists, the power assertive rapists, the sadistic rapists. Everything that may warp this man's way of thinking. And some of you may argue rape is rape. Well, we know rape is rape. But there are different types, obviously, because no two rapes are the same. Some use a weapon, some do not. Some talk subtly to the woman, some do not. Some use profanity, some torture. Some beat the victims up, as we heard with Eliza Fletcher. Why did he beat her up? What was the need of beating her up? Did he plan to, 1, kidnap the victim, 2, beat up the victim, sexually assault the victim, torture the victim, kill the victim? And as I brought you content weeks ago, what happened in the 4 minutes in the parking lot? We also got information that he drove the victim around for an hour and a half. What was he doing with Eliza Fletcher in that damn SUV for an hour and a half? Thank you all so much for joining the Queen. What was he doing with her for an hour and a half? Because I questioned all of this weeks ago about the blood in the passenger seat floorboard, which is the weapon that he was cleaning. I thought, well, how did he kill her for all this blood to be in there? That's how they knew there was a crime once they seized the car. Law officials. We now get information she was shot in the head, face fractured, jaw fractured, leg wounded. So I believe he probably was kicking her, stomping her. This shows a lot of hate for somebody he didn't even know, allegedly. Why? What was so bad about this lady that you're beating her, punching her in the face, her head, stomping her leg, whatever he was doing, then shoot her in the back of the damn head? You didn't do that to that black girl. Why you do it to this white woman? I'm going to ask those questions. Why did he do all of this violence with the white woman and not the black girl? Are there other victims that he has raped in less than 2 years of being released from penitentiary? Would it have mattered had he done 4 more years in the penitentiary? The total 24? I don't think so. He's a sadist. As I brought you commentary from the defense attorney that was speaking to, I believe it was Fox, he said possibly this is just who he is. He likes to do these things. He gets a joke, satisfaction from these things. And I won't doubt that it was drug induced as well, because I do believe he was under the influence. He is an addict. There's commentary pertaining to where she was dumped. Older content. I'm going to play you this, and then I'm going to check out of here because it's relevant to the story where he dumped her. Why did he dump her behind that vacant house? What was the point? Is this also a part of the entitlement? I can rape her. She's a white woman. Nobody cares. I'm committing this crime in a predominantly black city. Dump her in a black area. Who gives a damn? Because I always tell you all to pay attention to the details. 1, why this victim? 2, why did he lie in wait 24 minutes? Why did he ride her around for an hour and a half? Where did he take her? What all was he doing to her? Was she subdued? Because you have to ask all those questions versus what we're now getting as far as manner of death. Gunshot to the head, back of the head, blunt force trauma to the head and face. Gunshot near where her body was. So I was thinking perhaps she was already dead in the car, because we know that some men like having sex with dead people. So I didn't know what to think. And who wants to have sex with a person that they beat up, bloody? This is crazy to me. But you're saying this, you don't care. You don't care. So possibly the blood that's in the car was blood from him beating the victim. It's very wicked. This is very wicked. I just cringe at knowing how he did this woman, because it was unnecessary. He didn't have to do her that way. He didn't have to rape that black girl either, and whatever else he did to her. This content is by WRAG News Channel 3. It was uploaded 3 weeks ago, saying neighbors concerned about the blight in area where Eliza Fletcher was discarded. Is there a reason he discarded her behind this abandoned house? Why did he choose this house? Right near his brother's apartment complex. I find that strange. I'm going to weigh on that, because all that means something. Now, some people say, well, he was familiar with the area, but I do believe it was abandoned. Grass was high. You couldn't see either side. Nobody's looking over there. There's nothing there but abandoned house. Great place to dump a body. But why not dump her somewhere far off, such as Mississippi? It's right near Memphis, if you get my drift, because he never told them where she could be found, because he knew. I ain't going to tell where the body is. For what? Hold him out. So I'm going to ask again, why did he dump her behind that house right up the street, around the corner from his brother's apartment complex? Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.
These neglected properties can draw crime. Take a look here. You can see just how high this grass is in some parts, right in front of this house. In some areas, 7 feet tall or even higher. And people we talk to, they want it gone. Tonight, the memorial outside of the South Memphis home where investigators discovered Eliza Fletcher's body grows. Visitors from across stopped by, heartbroken for the young mother's family.
Her personally, but it still impacts us because we have kids, we have grandkids, and we want the best for them, and it's just a sad, sad day.
As they come by the house, they're not only met by tragedy, but this large lot of overgrown weeds.
I done called ever since the 6, 23, 22 on this grass over here, and I can't get nobody to respond.
This woman who lives nearby didn't feel comfortable being identified, but says she's been calling the city of Memphis and Shelby County nonstop about the issue. She believes the tall weeds made
Look how tall that grass is.
East Person a better hiding spot.
Cause if you coming down Person, it's hard for you to see that house.
Next door to the abandoned home are 2 other abandoned homes with overgrown lots.
Wow.
She says the blight causes concern for the neighborhood, especially the elderly.
They don't feel safe because they ain't got no visual of what's going on around them because the grass so tall.
We reached out to the city of Memphis about the
Another
problem.
abandoned
A
house.
311 check of the 1666 address shows a complaint of tall weeds closed on August 30th. But the city says the lot next to the property is owned by Shelby County in a tax sale. This concerned neighbor says when she called the county yesterday about the issue, she was told it would take 6 weeks before it could be cut.
I'm going to keep calling about this grass until they come out here and cut it.
So we talked with the city and we
Wow.
also reached out to the county for more answers, and we'll let you know when and if we hear back.
Thank you for joining me, everybody. WREG News Channel 3 is the source of that information. Is that the reason why Cleotha chose that street? It's because dilapidated houses, weeds, grass high. No one's going to be hanging over here except for somebody doing nefarious things and illegal activity. Perfect place to dump this white lady. And once again, why her? Why Eliza Fletcher? Was this a planned attack against this woman? Had he been watching her day 1, day 2, day 5, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, I don't know. Just a very eerie thought of knowing he possibly had watched her, seen her running through that area at that time of morning, built up the courage on that fateful Friday morning, and pounced. And how scared she must have been, being beat up severely, fighting for her life, begging, pleading, why me? What have I done to you? I'll give you anything you want. Just please let me go. What all did she say to Cleotha Abston Henderson? What did he say to her in return? I don't care about what you're talking about. Shut up. What did he say to her? The sick part of the story is not just the crime itself. It's that he knew what he had intended for the victim and she did not. And she prayed, I'm sure, to her God and said, please don't let this be my final moment in the hands of this stranger, this sadist, this thing, this bum, this creature, this monster. I don't want to go like this. I've got kids. I've got a husband. What did I do so terrible to end up in the hands of this black man that I don't even know? It's a terrible place to be. That's why you have to be aware of your surroundings. And sometimes you have to tell yourself that what you think is a good idea is not. That what you're used to doing and accustomed to doing is not a good idea. It's not a safe idea. It's not productive. It's not preservation of life. Many people will argue that God knows all, which he does, and it was her time. I don't really like when we say that because I tell people, well, what if on that day she decided to change her mind? Because you forgot one thing when you say it's her time, it's his time. God gives you free will to change your mind. Stay woke now. God gives you free will to change your mind. So what if on that fateful morning she said, I'm no longer going to run at 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to start running after I take my children to school. Temperature might be kicking up a little bit because we know it's warmer in Memphis than up here where I live. But nonetheless, guess she couldn't do that because she's a teacher. I forgot she did work, so scratch that. So maybe that's why she chose that time. It's the only time she had free. Busy schedule with teaching, getting kids off to school, picking up children, errands after work. But I wish she had chosen to run after picking up her children from school and ending her job. I wish she had decided that being visible was safer if she decided to run on the campus, to run during the afternoon, early evening, instead of 4 a.m. Maybe even had she changed her running route. I don't know if that would have made a difference or not. But I sure wish Eliza Fletcher had decided to pick up another exercise habit, a different time of day to run, exercise. Maybe possibly she'd be alive. I doubt that we could change the mind of Cleotha Henderson. I do believe he was tainted early on, could be possibly tainted in the womb of his mother. But somewhere down the line as a child, a sadist was coming into fruition. And I don't think it would have mattered had somebody tried to talk to him, school him, preacher, pastor, because he was already gone at 11. And that's a very young age to be labeled a sadist. And we've learned about people who commit crimes at that early age. They usually grow up to commit more. So it also wouldn't have mattered had he done the entire 24 years in penitentiary. The sadist was in him. He was going to assault somebody when he got out. And the fact that he had a girlfriend, lady friend, which the lady denies having that type of relationship with Cleotha, I think we know better. You let him use your car and go to work every day. So you had some entanglement and sexual relationship with this man. Stop the BS. So one's going to ask the ultimate question. Why is he raping women? He had a lady friend. He could go out here and date. He met the one girl on the date site. Why he want to rape her? Why couldn't he just be nice? Ask her out. Ask her, did she want to have sex? Wait for her response. Because he felt entitled. Because he felt like, you owe me. I don't need your permission. That's what I've always told you about the sadists. Don't ask why. Ask why not. I did it because I could. I did it. I do it because I can. I don't need your permission to hurt you. I don't need your permission to treat you right because you're nothing to me. You're an object to me. I don't even see you. You're oblivious. I'm a lump of clay. You're a lump of clay. I'm a narcissist. I'm a thing. You're a thing. I'm nothing. And I don't see nothing in you. That is a terrible way to live your life. And maybe just perhaps he could have had some glimmer of hope as a child and changed his ways. Maybe if he had different parents, a different environment, different people watching him, teaching him, he could have been a decent black man. He could have been a productive black man. He could have had a good childhood. He could have participated in sports. He could have been a Rhodes Scholar. He could have been more than just a rapist, a kidnapper, a killer. But he did not have that path. And sadly, Cleotha is one in how many that are out here on the hunt and the prowl. Every day when I bring you all content, my spirit is bothered by talking about true crime on here. And I get ill because I don't want to claim the same fate as Eliza Fletcher. Because I feel like when I talk about this on here, I can claim it for myself. Because at some point, you can't keep talking about death. You're asking for trouble, and I don't care what anybody says. I don't like it. And I am paranoid when I go to sleep. because, as I said, I'm a single person. And as I believe he watched her, the same could happen to myself. Because you can't sit up and say what won't happen to you. Oh, they ain't paying attention. Ain't nobody watching nothing. You can best believe, as great as this neighborhood is, tree-lined streets, everybody's walking up and down the street with their pretty little dogs. There's always somebody watching. And perhaps the one day somebody, may not be me, but this person is out. And they're out walking their dog and using that walking dog as a ruse to see who sits out, who's coming and going. Because this is how it happens. Every neighborhood, every jurisdiction, every race. There's always somebody watching. There's always somebody looking for that opportunity to break in the car, steal the car, steal a dog, break in the house, kidnap a woman, kidnap a child. You have to be aware. And I don't claim these things because I'm a child of God and I'm highly favored, but I'm not a dodo bird either. You have to be careful of everybody. And lately, with where I'm living, all the traffic of people coming in and out, working on stuff, it bothers me. Because I don't know you. And as the old lady once said, I didn't send for you. You got that right. See, what turns out as a smile. Good morning, Miss Lady. Hello, Miss Lady. You don't ever know the day when you put in that key in the door, somebody runs up and shoves you in your damn door. Shoves you in your car because you weren't expecting it. So I do try to be aware of my surroundings. And that's a sad way for a human being to have to live. Always looking over their shoulder. Scared to go to the grocery store at night. Scared to go too early in the morning. Scared to bring too many parcels out the trunk. Scared to leave the trunk up because somebody might run up and steal the stuff out the trunk. That's just a terrible way to have to damn live. Who wants to live like this? No woman, no man, no child should ever have to live like this, but it is what it is. And we've had some issues lately of women being assaulted in Knoxville, Tennessee, while running. I don't know if any of you have heard of a story recently, but he didn't care about grabbing her with the eyewitnesses on the street. Downtown Market Square, very nice area. People going about their daily business, but the psychopath didn't care. And I'm sure many people were stunned, like, dear God, he grabbed her in front of people because he didn't care. And he's done it before. And see, that's what you have to ask yourself too. When is our judicial system going to say we're worthy? What is he doing running around to grab that lady the other day? You didn't give a damn because you keep letting them out. You keep letting them walk around. What the fuck is the point? This 6-7 years for raping a child or raping a woman, it's got to stop. You got to give them more time because we now see with Cleotha, it don't even matter if you give them 20 years for a rape. As this man said in his commentary, this defense attorney, 20 years is a long time. Exactly. He went in as a child, 16, for putting a lawyer in a trunk. They had to let him out. He was just a kid, but he was tainted going in. He's raped a man as a child. He's put a man in the trunk at 16. He comes out. He's worse than when he went in. And that's the scary part. It's that there is no cure for the sadists. So it wouldn't matter if it was 20 years, 30 years, when Cleotha Abston Henderson got out of penitentiary, be it 23, 24, 27, He was going to assault somebody. He was going to rape somebody, and he was going to kill somebody. It just so happened it was 2022, and her name is Eliza Fletcher. Prayers to her children, husband, and family. Please pray for Memphis, Tennessee. The city is crime-ridden with a lot of heinous crimes, kidnappings, assaults, and murders. There is a video on my community page pertaining to kidnappings out of Memphis, Tennessee. I think I will do a live about that possibly the weekend, because we need to talk about what's going on in Memphis, because the crime is out of control. I brought you content yesterday of an African-American female shooting at a woman who had children in her car because she had been messing around with her husband. The woman is no longer married to this man, but somehow this black woman, who is young, has a vendetta against this black lady and her 10-month-old child. And my thing is, why? The woman's not with the husband anymore. Why are you hating her and this kid? What did I tell you? She hates her because she can. She hates the child because she can. And she showed them, I'll kill you if I want to. And she's tried before. So what you have to ask yourself is the obvious. Why did the judge let her out after stalking this woman and her kids, for her to find her again, hunt her down, and shoot her SUV? The back window crashed out. The bullet hit the passenger seat. And as the woman said in the interview, had my boy child been sitting in that seat, he possibly would have been shot in the head. People are at war with one another. And you don't know the hour when you will become a victim of crime. And you don't have to know the person. You didn't have to do anything to them, say anything to them out of the way. Could be they were aiming for somebody else, mistaken identity. You stay at the house where the person lives. It can go a multitude of ways. But in the end, it's sad. It's sad that people are at war with each other. And we all can get angry, pop off, make threats. But do we cross the line? Do we cross the line? Don't cross the line. And do your best not to become a victim as Eliza Fletcher. That's my message to you today. Thank you for following the content. Thank you, AB, for joining the chat. Thank you all. It was a bit windy, but there's a lot of information. I wanted to read all that from Wikipedia. That was the source of all that information I brought to you. Prayers for everybody this weekend. Once again, if you'd like to donate to this network, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. Thank you for the super stickers. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Mind the children. And please be aware of your surroundings when you're out. Happy weekend to everybody. This is football season, so please be careful while out tailgating and going places and leaving, your arenas while out. Please be aware of your surroundings, everybody. The holidays will be coming up soon. This time is going by quickly. The seasons, so this will be the season coming up here shortly for Thanksgiving, Christmas here in a few months. And this will be the time also when people will be out trying to do not so nice things to others and their property. So please be aware of that. And when that time comes, I will give you tips on how to keep your home safe, your car safe with packages and parcels. I think most of you know the rules of leaving things out on the seat. And do not leave boxes outside the driveway or on your porch. I don't order things, so I don't worry about people picking up stuff or stealing anything. But when you're buying things, naturally you want to discard the boxes. You need to be careful about leaving those things out near your garbage can and or dumpster if you're in an apartment, because as I said, there's always somebody watching, and be careful what you post on social media. Thank you for joining me. You all have a happy Friday. God bless all of you. Have a safe weekend. This is Everyday Shenanigans. You all have a wonderful weekend.